Dr. Jazz.
Thanks for finding the time. Good that we at least meet like that. So,
Thanks for the invite. Yeah, it's a
yeah,
pleasure.
yeah, it's I listened to the last record and I love it. I said I have to give you a ring.
Oh,
So,
thank you, man. Thank you so much.
and I bought your records like a while, 20 years ago when you did Howler and all that stuff, like
Right. Oh, wow.
2007.
That's way
Uh,
back.
that's way back, yeah. But
Yeah,
I want to start with Hades, with the new one, and man,
yeah.
it's like you've really established like your own unique sound as a composer and player, and I want to start with your composing and your sound, basically two things. Like there's a lot of effects going on, and when you play, and like
Yeah.
first of all, how did you compose for this one specifically, or in general, how do you compose?
This one was a little different actually, because this this is the third record that I do with this same band.
Hmm.
But the other records were made pretty conventionally, like just writing the songs and then getting together in studio, a couple of takes, band together, and that's how we did them. But this one, I started playing around with. I was just experimenting with a lot of synths that I got and sounds, and just coming up with things that I liked. I was kind of just browsing around and looking for stuff that I liked, and in the prospect of maybe using it for something at some point. But as I was doing it, stuff just started coming out that kind of felt that they could be the base for
Mm.
actually writing something over it. So a lot of it I actually started doing by myself this time, actually recording by myself since
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, a lot of synths, a lot of the sounds that you hear on the record. I had them already before I went to the studio with the band, and apart from one of the songs that I actually wrote the same way I always write, like just a chart for
Yeah.
everybody and play. All the other songs were kind of then composed in the studio as with those basses that I did before. The synth based. A couple of songs I already had some guitars on also. And what we did, we got to the studio and I had nothing written, and we just experimented with
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
yeah, with finding out stuff that I would try out to see if they worked over those
Interesting.
things. So I would get, I got like the horns to play on the other end of the room and record them really far, just doing either lines that I thought of at that point or improvised stuff. So we kind of built it from that point on, and it was a very different process from the other records that we did. And I was super happy. It was very fresh for me, at
Yeah,
least
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
this way of doing it. So it was kind of, you know, kind of a very quick, in terms of composing. It was we had the sound, the bass, like this thing for each track that I had an idea for, and I would just have the band try out things. I would write a line for the horns, or I would
Okay.
ask the drummer to do some kind of thing over it, and then maybe even double drums, which happens on some of the tracks, and just make one like the prominent kind of beat thing, and then like a very open
Oh,
kind of
fantastic. Yeah.
background drums also at the same time. So it was a much more experimental process, and I really loved doing it, and the result was obviously very different from
Yeah, yeah.
the other records, and
Sounds
I
way more
was
open in a sense.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
really like.
In a sense, they what I was looking for was trying not to make it like vague, or just like not being just a pad or whatever, and
Hmm.
then some completely random thing over it. I was I really tried to pay attention to each of the songs having their own. specific thing, idea or a sound or something like that. And that was the idea.
Interesting.
And then also connecting them with the premise for the record, which for the other two there was a I've never done this before, but with this band, actually, the first record, I kind of named every song um, on elements of something related to astronomy, which is something
Yeah.
that I'm really into, like either, whatever, constellations or something like that. And then the second one, I decided to kind of use the same kind of motific thing, and we did it over this book that I read. It was actually a kid's book that I read that I bought for my kids, and it was and I discovered a lot of really interesting things about a Portuguese folklore, like
Mm.
kind of horror for folklore, like creatures on specific areas of the country that have these myths of
Yeah.
different things. So I really enjoyed that. So that record was about that, and this one I took it to the same idea. So we did it over Greek mythology, which is another thing that I really like. So, so yeah, as I was writing, as we were doing that process in the studio, I was already kind of, as stuff would come up, I would kind of relate it. Well, maybe this kind of sounds like it could be, Kronos, or this could
Hmm.
be,
Yeah.
like, the very gentle kind of sad song could be Penelope. So it kind of gelled together during the whole process, which was fun. Yeah, yeah.
Mm. Did you write out sheets then, like for live gigs,
Very
like
little,
on the
actually.
basis of this? Like, what do you do live then? Do you keep it like really open?
Well, we haven't done this the concerts that we've been doing live. We still do the repertoire from the other records,
Okay.
because this one I have to figure out, because um I have a band that I've had a couple before, but now I still have one that I play a lot of Ableton Live, trigger stuff and manipulate sound in real time.
Yeah.
So I think that for this record, I kind of have to get that together before we actually do it on stage, because there's things that I think would be missing if I'm
Yeah.
just playing guitar or just playing keyboards. One of them I kind of have to have prepared, I think, to bring it up at the same time. The rest of the band is fine, I think, to do what's on the record.
Interesting.
But my part is a little bit more complicated with this record.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm still working on it, but I think that's going to be the solution. Yeah, just
Mm.
have some stuff that I have ready on the computer so that I can trigger while I play guitar, or vice versa. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Like, when I listen to the music, it's like your influences seem to be from kind of this. I'll call it Bill Frisell sound, like to the kind of Jim Black, Alice No Axis vibes to rock sound. Like, what are your influences like as a guitarist and composer? I mean, like, or going even further back, like, did you have a specific moment that you heard a record, a jazz record, and you said like, shit, I want to explore this, or like, how did it happen
There
for you?
was actually, yeah, yeah. When I was a kid, when I started, even before I started playing, I was into rock and pop of that time. I have an older brother, so I listened to a lot of the music that he had around. And my father had a lot of jazz records and Brazilian music records, but I didn't really connect with it when I was younger, when I was even before I played guitar. So when I started playing guitar, I started playing rock, and I did it for a long time, just playing clubs, like a cover
Sure.
band, stuff like that. And it was the 90s, so it was all grunge, and that was
Alice
my
in Chains, man, come on.
yeah, yeah, Alice in
I love
Chains
that.
and Nirvana and all
Yeah.
those. So yeah, that was really, I mean, there was my whole focus was on that. So a lot of my guitar thing that comes from the beginning is totally connected to the rock thing.
Mm.
But then there was a click in my late teens, that my father used to take me to jazz concerts, which I went, but I never really, liked it. Apparently, I saw a lot of great concerts that I wish I would see now, but at the time when I was like, 5, 6, or 7, I didn't care. But maybe something stayed. I don't know. But then in my late teens, I was already playing rock clubs and all that. And he took me to another show, and it was a Matheny show.
Mm.
And for some reason, I don't know why, that really like hit me really hard. And
Which tour was it? You remember? Because I also had a Martini epiphany. That was the reason
oh
I
yeah,
started playing jazz. Yeah,
yeah, man. I think it was the Matheny group. So
yeah,
this was 90s also, still the Pat Metheny group. And I don't remember which iteration or exactly who
yeah.
was there, but I think it was the one with Pedro Aznar and
Oh
Lionel
yeah.
Mays, of
Okay. Even
course.
that.
And
Wow. Okay.
yeah, I think that was the band. Um, in May, I think that group probably for people that come from rock or guitar players is a good group to make a connection with the
Yeah.
jazz thing because it's kind of a hybrid, right? It's not rock at all, but it does have this power on stage that was kind of like a rock band, like really loud, really powerful, energetic. So maybe that was it. I don't know, but I was like blown away by it. I was like, shit, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And so it was from then on, man, I went home. I had his records. My father had his records or some of them. So I went back home and started checking it out, and that was it, man. And then I went
Interesting.
started going back, into listening to the older stuff. Yeah, and that was my click from switching. I never really left the rock thing. I did in practice because I couldn't do. I mean, I was for all those years, you kind of become a kind of a jazz nerd for a
Yeah.
while. You have to because
It's funny, man. Yeah.
you have to yeah, you have to spend the time, right? So but I still listen to the rock bands that I always loved, but I wasn't playing it for a long time when I was in school and all that. But yeah, and then I guess it was just a natural thing when I started writing more jazz-oriented stuff on that period. Maybe in the beginning it was actually less connected to the rock thing, but more and more it just creeped its way into the writing,
Hmm.
and it's just a natural thing because it was there, So
Yeah.
I that's where it comes from. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny with our generation. Really we're all the same kind of when I talk to guitarists.
Right.
So we started with rock and then somehow had this jazz phase when you're like, okay, shit, no, only jazz, and then slowly again you open up like, oh fuck, that was my,
That's right.
that's my
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
as well. So it's like
Yeah, yeah.
it's
It makes
very
sense,
interesting.
man, because to get that jazz, the vocabulary, the whole thing
Yeah.
together. I mean, it takes a lot of focus and a lot of, and um yeah, so I guess some people probably manage to do both or keep doing, the rock thing if they had done it before. But
Mm.
at the time, I just couldn't do it. I was like 100% into the jazz thing for a long time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but I loved
You
it.
went also to Berkeley, right? Then,
I
uh,
did, yeah, yeah.
how
I
did
did.
that happen? And what was it like for you? And then
It
also
was
New York,
great.
right? I've read like, I mean, how did this U.S. story happen for you?
Well, I was here in Lisbon, here where I grew up. There was one jazz school which it still exists. It's the Hot Club School. Now it has a different name now, but it's the same thing. But it wasn't a very like organized. There were great teachers there, but it was like, the end of the course for me was when my guitar teacher, which is a great friend of mine still today, told me at the end of one of the semesters, told me, well, I'm not gonna give you any more lessons. You're done. That was the end of the curriculum, and it was like a choice. It wasn't really even, it was what it was. So I was kind of lost. I was like, man, I really wanted to continue
Mm.
because that was all I did, just practice guitar and into the jazz thing. Um, so I didn't know what to do, and that school took me to one of these IASJ meetings, which is this International Association of Schools of Jazz, where a lot of schools from all over the world bring students, and they
Mm.
do like a week somewhere in the world. And mine was in Tel Aviv, and there I was kind of groomed by this teacher from Berkeley, this guy that I ended up having lessons with, and he was like, "Man, you should come to Berkeley. You shouldn't." And I was like 17, so I was like, "Man, if this guy says I should go, then maybe I should go. I should go." So I tried. I applied for scholarship here in. They did some European tours for scholarship, so I drove to
Yeah.
Spain to do one, and I got a scholarship, and that's it. And, spent one more year here, just to get, trying to get as much money as I could, and I went there. Yeah, in
Mm.
96,
Oh, okay.
96 and 98. I was there for a couple of years. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Who was your guitar teacher? I mean, who were your teachers then?
This guy was John Damian, which is is an incredible. Um, he was actually the teacher of Frizzell's teacher
Oh, really? Wow.
Berkeley,
Okay, have to check him out.
and also Kurtz and all this. Although he plays nothing like these guys, but he's a great teachers, completely out there. I mean, he's a very peculiar guy, very, very funny, weird guy. But it were great lessons, man. He was just super enthusiastic. But I think the main thing at Berkeley wasn't. I mean, the the classes or some of them were great, but the main thing was just being
People,
in
yeah.
a giant environment with so many. Yeah, I think there were hundreds of guitar players at the school at that time, and just to be able to play with all these people every day and and making connections and knowing people and being exposed to different
Yeah.
um, people's music and way of playing. That was great. Yeah.
Mm. Then immediately back to Europe, or did you also had to stay in New York, or did you
Yeah, I
ever?
did. I did.
Oh, you
I
did.
did. Yeah. I mean, I, w- I kind of misbehaved there because Berkeley, at the end of those 2 years, Berkeley awarded me another bunch of uh, amount of money for like a scholarship, another
Yeah.
scholarship, because I was, they have these things where they kind of people that are doing a lot of things around the school, and I was just doing stuff to do it. Everybody that asked me to do like composition majors would need people to record their stuff, so I would do everything.
Mm.
So one day I got this letter that oh, you were selected to receive this scholarship and all that. But what I did was I took that money and I left Berkeley and so I could go to New York for a little bit,
Sure.
because I knew that was my only possibility. I couldn't afford to go to New York by my own means. So I thought, well, this is my one shot to just go there and see what it's like. So I did do that. Uh, I came back to Lisbon for a while, for some months, and then I moved to New York
Oh,
for
really?
another. Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
Did you do like gigs there as well and everything, or
I
I
did
mean,
a
how
couple
how
of
was that
gigs.
like?
Yeah, I did a couple of gigs, but I wasn't. I mean, I was uh, um, very how you say uh, I wasn't still matured enough to be
Okay.
like totally in this. Plus, it takes a long time. But I did play with a bunch of people that I knew. I did a lot of sessions
Yeah.
because
Sure.
that was one of the great things there. It was which I never had over here. Would be that everybody would be doing sessions at everybody's house every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Multiple
That's
sessions
the
sometimes.
difference. Yeah.
So we would meet everybody, play with everybody. So that was great, and I made a lot of friends, people that I still connect with today. Yeah, in a couple of gigs here and there along the times,
Yeah.
small gigs. But it was great to get the New York fantasy out of my system. Like I gotta move to New York, the jazz thing. So I went there. I got a little bit of
Check.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then I had a choice: either stay there and try it out and get a day job, do the grind and hope for the best.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was being called for a lot of gigs here in Europe, so I would be flying back and forth. Um, so I decided to, and also money was running out. So if I stayed there, I would really need to
Sure.
yeah, to do the thing, and it'd be a commitment.
Yeah.
So I
It's
decided
hard
to
then.
try
Yeah.
out coming here first and see what happened. And if I wasn't happy, I would go back.
Mm.
And then still stuff just started building up, and I was like, man,
Of course. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna go there and start from scratch. So I didn't do it.
absolutely.
I stayed. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you came back to Portugal, how did Howler happen then? I mean, did you immediately start leading your own bands in Portugal or even there?
Yeah,
Or
I even did it before I went to Berkeley.
mm,
As soon as I got out of the hot club at that time, or that teacher that told me that it wasn't that I was done. What I did next was I invited him to do a band with me because I wanted to still be able to
okay,
to
smart.
get his, to get more information from him. So I was like, well, would you be into playing a band with me, and I'll write music and we'll get a rhythm section. So that was my first kind of jazz band. And for the year that I stayed here before I moved to Berkeley, we played a lot.
Mm,
That was a great experience also before I went to the States. And yeah, but writing music, I did it even before in the rock thing. I always wrote me ever since I started playing. I think I immediately I had this like 4-track recorder, and I was always recording and writing stuff. So it wasn't something that I decided to do. It was just something that I always did.
mm,
So in the jazz thing, I always wrote music also. So I had a bunch of music, and every time I came back, or even there, I had a regular gig with Avishai Cohen, the trumpet player, and Massimo Biolcati,
oh, beautiful.
bass player, and who else was in the band? This guy Jorge Perez,
Mhm.
the drummer. So I was doing my music even then there as much as I could. Um, and every time I came back, I booked gigs around just playing my music. So it was always there. Yeah,
Mm,
always that. Yeah.
mm. How did you decide to do tone of a pitch? I mean, that's how I found out about,
Yeah.
Portuguese scene has become like quite important now in Europe, like, with Clean
Right.
Feet and Pedro and all.
Yeah.
But also that label, I think, was so good, so important. I think I have almost half of the records of that label. Like, I
Yeah.
bought them back then. Like, what's the
Oh,
story
that's
behind
great,
that
man.
one? And
Man, it was out of necessity, man. I'm when I came back, there was a scene of people my age. There was a scene of also of older musicians, which was a smaller scene than it is today. Now it's a
yeah,
very big scene here in Portugal, but at the time there wasn't that much going on. But there was some really good musicians that came from earlier generations. But there was also this new generation that I belonged to,
yeah,
and we really didn't have an output. There was no jazz labels in Portugal at that time. So it was very hard and I wrote music, and these friends of mine also did, very different music, and it was just getting lost, because you did whatever amount of gigs that you could with that repertoire, and then that was it,
yeah.
and music wasn't everywhere, anywhere. So I decided to do a label, and to document this music that was happening, that was new here. And then it just started growing and actually going beyond that point of doing the just that kind of generation, given opportunity to guys from my generation, and it started actually opened up the door for my generation to start playing with the older generation, which
Mm,
something that never happened before that, because there was an excuse to do it, like a younger guy wanted to do a record and could call that older guy, and then all of a sudden they were playing together, and there was, like this connection. And then also the people that I met in Boston and in New York, I started to try and bring them over and do things mixing the Portuguese scene with people that I knew from there, either recording or
okay.
this festival that we organized one of the nights for in Guimarães in the north, or just touring. I tried to hook up people and get this thing, because I thought, man, if I'm gonna stay here, I want this. I want to make it. I want to try and help to make this scene alive, and get people, myself included,
Yeah.
have a goal that you can. Well, you do this because then you can do a record, and with a record, maybe you can tour and do stuff. So yeah, it was kind of like there was nothing. when I did open it, it was the same time that Pedro opened Clean Feed. But in the beginning of Clean Feed, I mean, it still is, but it was much more. Pedro had a very
Yeah,
peculiar, specific
yeah,
vision for the label, which was much more directed to free music and
improviser.
cool music and that. So, but that wasn't what this scene was doing. So there was really not a place for us on his label at the time. So that's why we did. I did that, and it
Mm,
lasted like 15 years or something. Yeah.
yeah, it's not going anymore, right?
No, it's not going.
Yeah.
I have a new. I just started a new label now
Oh, really?
called
Oh, okay.
Timbuktu. Yeah, yeah. But no, it's not ongoing because it was based on CDs. The survival of that label, it was a company, so it was all like from mouth to hand to mouth. Like
Yeah,
you get
yeah,
the
yeah,
money
yeah.
to do a record, and then once that record sold enough to do another one, we did another one, and so forth. But then CDs stopped selling, so it was not a business anymore,
Yeah.
and the online thing wasn't really happening at the time, so I had to let it go. Yeah, it was just I couldn't keep it up. Yeah.
Yeah. But you did that record also in between on Edition, right?
Yeah,
The
I did one for Edition and also for Clean Feed. Yeah.
Clean. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Edition, I did a Dreamkeeper.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a nice record. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that one. I mean,
It's a good
especially
one.
the your connection with Perico. I love. How did you meet Perico, by the way? Because he's from Spain, right?
Yeah, he's from Spain. But Perico used to come when I was a kid, and used to go to the hot club, the local club to see. I was there every weekend to see
Yeah.
every band, and he would come a lot to play with this some Portuguese musicians that were older than me, like Bernardo Sassetti, this piano
Oh yeah,
player.
sure. I loved him. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
he was amazing.
and Carlos Barreto, this
Yeah,
bass player. So Perico
awesome.
would. I saw him all the time playing there, but we never played at that time. I don't know exactly when was the first time that we actually played. It was probably in somebody else's band, maybe Bernardo Sassetti's band. I remember we did some gigs that Bernardo invited me to, and Perica was there. So maybe that was it. And then yeah, and then we connected musically, and he asked me to come to Spain a couple of times to play with him, and we then other people would get both of us on their bands, and then for that record, I called him to come over and record it, but
Mm,
I had already played on two of Perico's records before that. Yeah,
mm, yeah.
he's great, man.
Oh
He's
man,
great.
he's a fantastic. Yeah. Speaking of the older generation, I mean,
Yeah, man. He's
you
such,
connected.
and he has these qualities that really come from a deep knowledge of the tradition thing.
Yeah.
Although he's a super open guy that will play anything, but just his time is something that is completely
Mm,
unbelievable. It's like it's just the time that he plays with. It's like a lesson every time I play with him. I'm like, shit.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
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 fantastic.
that's that's exactly what it how
Yeah.
it's supposed to sound. It's great. I love him. Yeah.
Has the scene in Portugal changed a lot since you started and now? I mean, because I
Oh
know,
yeah.
many musicians I know and played with, like many US musicians are moving to Portugal,
Yeah.
but how is it for gigs? I never made it to Portugal. I played all over Europe, but never played gigs in Portugal.
Yeah, you should come, man.
Yeah, but there's no clubs, I think, or something. I don't know.
No, no, the hot club is closed now because
Yeah.
there was
What's the story now, like with the scene in Portugal? I mean,
well, there are a lot of small in terms of music, it's actually completely different from when I was starting out for the better. There's many more
yeah.
musicians, and it's much more varied. There's a lot of people really playing at a high level, and it's very there's a big experimental kind of free thing going on with young guys doing it, uh, which is great. And then there's all other things like really traditional, bebop
Really?
guys going on, and then more straight ahead contemporary or modern stuff. So it's great, actually. It's much bigger than much more alive than when I was starting out, which is great.
Mm,
Um, but the club scene is kind of weird right now because the main club in Lisbon is closed. I
yeah.
think it's going to reopen this year, hopefully with the hot club. But then there's a lot of very small places that you can play.
Okay.
Then the festival scene is pretty good. There's a lot of
Yeah.
festivals and concert halls around the country. So you kind of end up. I play much more outside of Lisbon than actually in Lisbon. So and then you travel out, outside of the country. But musically, it's a great scene right now. I think it's a really good period for the
Mm.
musically. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I noticed that. Like you know, it's so much music coming out from Portugal, like
Yeah,
last 10 years, and I'm always like discovering new names. Like, shit, man, who is that? And he's killing, like a drummer
yeah,
or a bass player.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
There's a
already in the
lot of
past,
really
you
good.
mentioned Carlos Barreto. I remember I bought his records on Clean Feed,
Yeah,
and there is this guitar. What's the guitarist's name?
Mario.
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 Yeah. Oh
He's
man,
actually that teacher that I was telling
Mario
you about.
Delgado. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. He's
Yeah, I
the guy
loved.
that that
Oh,
hockey teacher
okay.
that I had. That was him.
Yeah, I loved his sound. He had this like Frisalian, but also like distorted sound going on. It was
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. He's great, man. He's like a sound scientist. He's always, he's like one of those gigs, pedal gigs,
yeah.
all the pedals and all the little things and iterations.
He's
He's
still
a
playing,
funny
or
guy.
he's still playing, right?
He's still playing. Yeah, yeah.
Oh wow, I have to
Still out
check
there.
check him out, yeah, more.
Yeah.
Uh, Andrea, I wanted to ask you also. I did this talk a while ago with Akiko Pavolka, and you're on her
Yeah.
last record. And what's your story with her? I mean, I guess Berkeley or New York connection, or how did that
Not
happen?
really. Well, more New York connection. I was when did I meet I met first I met Matt Pavolka,
Yeah.
Akiko's husband, bass player, because I did a tour for the record, either Timbuktu
Hmm.
or the one after that I brought. I used to play a lot with this New York piano player called Pete Randy.
Pete, yeah,
He's
he's on Howler.
yeah,
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah,
exactly. He's great. And
yeah,
for the
he's.
record that I did after Howler, I wanted to bring try out other people, just to know other people and also be pushed to play with better musicians than me, So Pete actually uh, told me about Matt Pavolka. He said, "Well, this guy's really great and super nice guy, so maybe try getting him on." So that's
Okay.
what I did, and we did. I did the record with him and Pete and Matt Renzi, and uh, and yeah, and then I guess through Matt somehow I got to Akiko's music, which I immediately really loved. It
Mm.
was first records that she had with House of Illusion.
Yeah.
Right, I really loved it. So yeah, and I had the label, so I guess that
Oh
was
yeah.
how it
Oh yeah.
started out. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
because she did a new record, and they got in touch saying, "Well, you want to put it out?" And I said, "Well, yeah, yeah, of course." So then I brought her to Portugal to tour that record, and at some point we started playing together. Yeah,
Mm. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
because you saw they are Matt and Akiko are in Portugal now, right? You did some gigs or something
She
also.
just left this morning from my house.
Ah, really? Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, they
Okay.
just
Excellent.
left.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're playing here this week at
Beautiful.
the festival, the Timbuktu festival of the label that I now have. We had a
Yeah.
festival this week, and then I booked them a couple of more gigs after, and they left today. Yeah, yeah.
Ah, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of gigs and festivals, what's still in the schedule for you for this year? And I mean, are you gonna? Do you have any ideas or plans of coming to our parts of Europe
Man, I would love
as a
to,
band
but
leader, or like or?
yeah, I would love to, man. The thing is, the last year or actually a couple of years, I really focused I mean, not creatively because I did a bunch of records in
Yeah.
between, and I keep doing it. But I haven't really been touring that much because I wanted to get this label together. And it's also like a cultural association, so there's a lot of things that we do with it,
Yeah.
and I wanted to like get it running up and running. So I focused my attention on that for the last year, and also studio work and that I've been doing producing. Started producing people, not only my music, which I really love to do. So So I haven't been booking. I mean, I've been doing stuff, but with other people's bands, but not with
Mm.
my own traveling abroad. Um, but yeah, my plans for next year are to get back to it. Now that everything is kind of running, I'm gonna try to hit the road. And also I'm doing I did a bunch of solo gigs
Really? Oh wow.
this year, and I'm gonna record that. I think that next year, one of the things that I want to try to tour is the solo thing, which is
Mm.
not only just guitar, but a whole electronic setup that I have, with processed voice
Oh,
and
fantastic.
Ableton Live and keyboards and the guitar. So I'm having a lot of fun doing that. So I think I'm gonna try to book stuff with that project.
It should be
Yeah,
fun. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
If when you're a producer, how do you approach that as being a producer? I mean, your role as a when you're not a guitarist, I'll put it like that.
Right. Well, I kind of see it as an external ear and an opinion with
Yeah.
I produced a bunch of records, not jazz records, but also outside of jazz.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just did this singer-songwriter album for this guy, and I did a pop album for
Oh, really?
this
Interesting.
girl singer. And the thing is, man, I love it because it's a very creative. If you're given the freedom, which if somebody kind of asks you to do it, that's kind of what they want, I think, which is like to take their music and try to do what you would do for you
Mm.
if that music was yours, alongside what with them. And because I have a studio and I have the technical
Oh, yeah.
knowledge to to be able to know how to get sounds or approach things. So I kind of do the whole thing. I get together with a person. Like sometimes they just send me like a scratch piano vocal thing, and I try to build up the whole thing.
That's fun. Yeah.
If it, call different people to play different stuff that I think would fit the songs or something like that. So I really like doing that. It's a lot of fun, and so I've been doing that a little bit too. Yeah,
Mm. It's fantastic that you're doing other stuff, not only jazz. I think that's so
yeah,
important
yeah,
for a
yeah,
musician that we
yeah.
are like
Totally.
exposed to different stuff of music. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, man. I mean, it makes sense, man. Even nowadays, I mean, with the access that you have to so much
Yeah.
music, unless you're really only into like very specific thing and really don't like, there's really no, I don't see a reason for people not to
Oh,
be,
yeah. Absolutely.
have all this stuff going on because it's available. So unless you really don't like it, then you should kind of be in tune with it also,
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Cool, man. I'll let you go.
All right, man. Thank you
No,
so
but
much.
thanks for sharing some of these thoughts, man. I really
Thanks so
appreciate it.
much. Yeah, man, it was fun.
I wanted to do that for some time already, just to hear your side of the story a bit. So,
Yeah, man, it was fun. Thank you for asking.
yeah, cool.
Great. And congratulations for doing this, man. It's a great idea for you to
I love this.
conversations going on,
It's so many
especially
of you
new
guys out there.
musicians. Yeah,
Of us or you or it's like so many musicians who are band leaders and
yeah,
incredible composers, but it's just, to at least contribute some exposure, I hope,
yeah,
for
man. That's great.
other
That's
people. So
great.
that's good.
That's great, man. It's
But
great.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Keep me posted, Andre, for the solo record if when you're
I
gonna
will, man.
release it. And if you're in my parts of the world, drop me a line
Let's
or
see, man. Let's see. There's a record
we'll
coming
get
out with
together.
from Alexi Tuomarila, this
Yeah.
Finnish piano player that
Oh,
I'm on, and
fantastic.
I think he's planning on touring next year. So maybe with him, it's
Beautiful.
very likely that we'll stop by
Yeah,
around.
we get together for a beer, or if you're gonna search for a gig, drop me a line and maybe I can
All
help you
right, man.
something. Or
Of course, of
cool.
course. Thank you so much, man.
Cool.
All right.
Bye.
See you
Ciao.
soon.
Ciao.
Bye
See
bye.
you.